talking about SNL, the history, the mysteries, and all the hot impressions in between, breaking down all the numbers as well. In your favorite sketches with special guests, it's on the Saturday Night Network.
Yes, welcome on in, everybody, to the Saturday Night Network for another edition of our Hot Take Show, coming to you live immediately following the Sabrina Carpenter episode of Saturday Night Live. My name is Jon Schneider from the SNL. Very excited to be back with you for week number 3 of season 51 to talk about this double duty stint that we just saw from Sabrina Carpenter. We are, of course, here as a presentation of LateNighter.com, and it is a very late night right now as we started the show late, and we will be talking about this into the night with 2 amazing guests and a wonderful chat. So first up, let's bring in Halle Dowden-Parrott. Halle, how are you?
I'm doing good, John. I'm super excited to be back on the Hot Take Show, and I'm so caffeinated and ready to talk about that episode.
Yes, it's our duty to be here, no matter how late the show starts, to talk about this episode of Saturday Night Live. And joining us as well as the world traveler, Rachel Chang is here. Rachel, how are you?
I'm so excited to be here for the first time this season. I am definitely jet lagged, but I'm both caffeinated as well as I took a long nap in the afternoon, so hopefully I can stay awake.
Rachel, have you been to Nashville lately?
I have been to Nashville, and I was surprised by what Nashville was, and they nailed it today.
All right. We'll talk about that in just a bit. But of course, we need to start with any hot takes or headlines that we saw from tonight. So, Halle, I will start with you. Anything that you are thinking about as we come out of the Sabrina Carpenter episode of Saturday Night Live?
I don't know that I would say this is a super hot take, but this was the first time this season that I felt super confident that the featured players are 100% pulling their weight, in my opinion. This was such a good night all around for them, and that was definitely my ongoing headline throughout the whole episode, start to finish.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I really felt like there was a lot of fascinating stuff from the featured players last week. You could argue that they continued some of that momentum into this week. Rachel, how are you feeling about the night overall? Any hot takes or headlines?
I felt like there were a lot of mini headlines, but I think if you were trying to look at one overall one that would capture everyone's attention, it would probably be the return of Domingo, especially singing the Taylor Swift song. I think there's both sides of it. Some people feel like it's tired. Some people are excited to see Domingo, but I feel like that was probably the one big talking point. Everything else was a little bit more muted conversations, little things here and there about Sabrina addressing her rumors. And I'm not quite sure what the headline will be tomorrow morning, but I feel like Domingo may be among the contenders.
Yeah, for me, I feel like there's 2 things I'm thinking about as I just come out of this episode. Number one is I felt like SNL was trying to check a lot of boxes tonight. I think they had Sabrina in the building, so they're like, okay, we got to do a Domingo. It's the 3rd week of the first run of the show. We got to get Tommy on update, which is fun, and we'll talk about that. Veronica is probably the one cast member who hasn't had a big thing, so let's make sure she has a big thing. Ashley's been crushing it, so we have to continue to lean on her. Let's give something to I really felt like they were trying to hit all the things so that they can close the run on. We did everything that we were trying to do in the first 3 episodes of the season. So that's how I looked at it from a little bit of a production perspective. Just from the naked eye of watching what I saw here tonight, I do feel like the pre-tapes were way stronger than the live sketches. I think they had some really great pre-tapes tonight, and I think those are the ones that I'm taking away right away from the show. Some of the sketches, I think, had some interesting ideas, and maybe we'll talk through what we found here and what we enjoyed. But for me, I felt like this was a pre-tape night of Saturday Night Live. Sometimes you get those. But we'll talk through the cold opening that we had here. And for the first time since last Christmas, where we had Marty Short's 5-timers in his introduction to the club, we don't have a politics cold open tonight. No Trump yet. This time we're just going to open up, and it is Matt's 30th birthday, and he's sitting with his, I guess, wife. I forget the whole relationship, but they're at Olive Garden, which that I certainly loved, sitting next to Kelsey as they are talking about the 30th birthday. And okay, well, there's gonna be a lot of surprises. Your friends are gonna be here. Well, actually, I brought my squad, and in comes Sabrina Carpenter, who we had previously seen in the Domingo sketch at the 50th anniversary. And in comes Sarah and Ashley and Veronica. So no Ego and Heidi, but we do get some replacements in there to sing about going to Nashville to get a gift for Matt, but it turns into a wild case of needing a burner phone and one night with Domingo and all of this. And eventually we will get Marcelo, who will come in as Domingo as the girls sing songs that are based on the fate of Ophelia, Abracadabra, and Ordinary. And it is exactly what you would be looking for if you were hoping that a Domingo would pop up on the show here tonight. So, Halle, how did you think they did?
I will say I want to say shocked, not really shocked. I was surprised to see it so early on in the show, and I was really curious going into this about how they would spin Domingo if/when there were to be a Domingo. I figured it would be likely, but we're looking at a new Kels squad here. Without Ego and Heidi. And I will say, I thought that the last installment of Domingo wrapped it up pretty nicely. So I wasn't quite sure how they were going to, how many more life events can these people have? Poor Matt, age 30, has already been through so much in this world. But I thought it was a fun way to start the episode. I think there's probably a lot of people who came to the episode looking for a Domingo or something like that right off the bat, and I think it was wise to hook them in with that. Even though I'm not anti-Domingo by any means, I do love Domingo, but I think as Domingo goes on, we've seen him, we know his thing. The abracadabra bit with the spelling though will be stuck in my head for the next week. I think that may be the catchiest Domingo musical lyric I've seen so far. So it was a fun hook to the episode. And I will say, even though I know a lot of people were not wanting Domingo right off the bat or not wanting Domingo at all, just because we've seen so much of him, I think it is awesome that we have such strong and popular recurring characters that we can have it still be a thing this many times in the last year.
Rachel, what did you think of the cold open tonight?
I mean, like Halle said, I think we expected Domingo, but the placement was a shock. And this is the fourth one within a year and a week. I think the first Domingo was mid-October of last year. So that is a lot. And I do kind of also agree that a trilogy wrapped it up quite nicely. I almost wonder what if they had taken it out of the formula or kind of like inserted Domingo in a different way? Would that have been more of a surprise? I did love seeing the new cast member step in. I thought it was a lovely way to showcase Ashley singing for the first time, I think. I'm not sure we've seen her really get to showcase her voice. So that was lovely. I think that I almost wish they went all in on one artist. Like if they'd all done all Taylor Swift's album, that would be a headline.
Yeah.
Like Abracadabra and Ordinary are not as right now as Fate of Ophelia and Life of a Showgirl. I thought that might have made it a little bit more exciting. While I did love the spelling of the Domingo, I kind of like the spelling more in Hot to Go when they did all, like, I like that was so catchy. So, I mean, and I did like that. I mean, I thought Nashville was the obvious next one for a life event. It's just such a prototypical girls or bachelorette place right now that it seemed like it was the right place for them to go. Grand Ole Opry was mentioned, which I thought was kind of fun because Ashley had performed at Grand Ole Opry with Nate Bargatze and Mikey Day when they did the riff on the Washington Stream sketch. So there's that little tie-in. But overall, I almost wished it was a little bit off formula because I think 4 times in a year was a lot.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's the amount of times. It's just that I felt like I really didn't like the first time that they did it. I admitted here when I saw it that night, I didn't get it. And like I saw it got really popular and I was like, I had like a self-crisis of trying to figure out why don't I like this? But then it grew on me a little bit with the second one. And I especially liked the one at the 50th. I thought it was really creative and fun to get, you know, not just the Kel squad, but also the guys going back and forth. So like I thought that was great and a great way to sort of end it. And I was thinking that if they were going to do that tonight or something with Domingo tonight, the best move for me would have been to sort of do like a Will Ferrell esque thing of like get Marcelo to appear during one of Sabrina Carpenter's songs as Domingo. Like, make that little cameo there. And I think that would have been like a huge moment and a huge pop for the show, just to have him come out as Domingo while she is performing music on the show. I don't know that this sketch added anything besides it just being like a quick like layup for them. You know, it's not like they didn't do anything different. The situation of like them being at a 30th birthday is way lower stakes than anything else they've done. What was it? An engagement, a vow renewal, a baby moon. Like, it felt like they were going backwards with this. And I get why they did it, because they feel like there's so many people tuning in specifically to see this. But I think that there was a way more creative way of doing it. And Rachel, I have to be honest, the crowd was so silent during this for me. Like, I don't know if I was just looking for it, but that's how it felt to me.
Yeah, it just felt like, I mean, even online, I saw some chatter that people were tired of it. And I was shocked to see that in real time, too. I just thought everyone thinks that, you know, obviously Domingo's a favorite. Obviously, Domingo is the platform that has launched Marcelo from just another newbie to who he is today. But to see it in this way and right up at the top, almost was like, I don't want to say it was a dose of overconfidence, but it was like, there was more expectation and it just didn't live up to it being the cold open.
Yeah. And look, I know that like this has always taken more than one watch for somebody like me to find things in. So maybe I will feel better about it rewatching it. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who are very excited about another Domingo being there. It's just not exactly what I would have wanted. If you're going to do it, it's fine that it was the cold open. I think it's totally fine to be creative with that spot. If they didn't have something that they wanted to do in politics this week, put it there. That's fine. I have no issues with that. Let's talk about the monologue that we saw here tonight. So the monologue, we have Sabrina Carpenter coming out. She's talking about how she got to sing with Paul Simon at the 50th and how cool that was. Her very infamous album picture that she has where they Photoshop Bowen Yang, who was not in the building tonight. He was receiving an award. Very exciting for him in Los Angeles. So we will get him in pre-tapes tonight, but he was Photoshopped into a picture alongside Sabrina Carpenter. And then we get Paul Simon there. We got Martin Short there as well. Anyway, she's going to explain, Sabrina Carpenter, to the audience that she is a real person and she's not just horny all the time as her, she portrays herself to be. She's going to interact with some members of the audience or some plants. She talks to Will from Maryland, who says that, what a sexually unusual place that you come from. Of course, Kenan Thompson will eventually join and comes to arrest Sabrina Carpenter for falsely impersonating an officer over 200 times. Rachel, how did you feel about this monologue?
I like that Sabrina used it to kind of address a lot of the issues or the news topics that are out there. I mean, that cover has been so controversial, and the way they did the coverage was just so brilliant. It looked so realistic. I like the way they pulled out, and just seeing Bowen. And like you said, I'm very excited that Bowen was getting the Academy Museum Award tonight. And that was actually a huge headline. I couldn't believe how many stories there were about Bowen not being there tonight. Like, I saw it on social media and barely thought about it. And then all of a sudden my entire feed was stories about it. And I'm glad he was still part of the episode with the pre-tape. But I was a little bit, I don't know. I feel like a couple times they've done the audience without the true plants of like writers or cast members have been a little bit meh. And I wasn't as taken by this audience interaction. Sabrina has no brother. She has 3 sisters. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I just know too much about that part. I did think that it picked up again when Kenan came in. And I am glad. I thought the cameo for my niece was a fun little twist because it just kind of really showed Sabrina's star power and where her audience is.
Halle, how did you feel about the monologue we saw tonight?
I liked it. I thought it was really in Sabrina's voice, kind of. It felt true to her and kind of her brand and her sense of humor, as far as I know. And I thought the mention of her album cover, that was a really fun way to make light of a big pop culture moment that she was involved in. A fun way to tie Bowen into the episode, like you said, while he's away for the night. So I thought it was a fun monologue. It didn't stand out to me as anything outrageously spectacular, like an episode highlight, but it kicked off some good momentum coming out of Domingo for me.
Yeah, I thought it was great. Actually, I really enjoyed getting to see Sabrina's personality. I know that she's really like shows it a lot in her concerts. If you don't regularly follow Sabrina, I think you got right away, the type of person she is, her confidence. And I know she's been at SNL before. We saw her in Quinta Brunst's monologue at the end of last season, but it was great that she finally had this moment to herself. Let's talk about the first sketch that we saw after the monologue. And we're going to go to a podcast, lots of podcast content over at SNL nowadays, but it's a kids podcast where we get Snack Homies. This is a podcast hosted by Chloe, who's playing Brayler. We get Veronica, we get Jane, it has Kyler, and Sabrina, and they're all hanging out talking about candies and airheads and fruits and vegetables. And about 3 minutes go by until we get James Austin Johnson, who comes in as the special guest playing Trump, it says it's a long time coming to be there with regards to snacks and podcasts, and talks about airheads and China and Korea and going to heaven, and finally makes his way over to the podcast. Halle, how did you feel about Trump's appearance on Snack Homies?
I loved it. It was such a different kind of position to see SNL Trump in. Seeing him show up after a cold open I was not expecting it. I thought we were Trump free after the cold open, and then we very much weren't. And I was, as weird as it is to say it, pleasantly surprised by his appearance. I thought it was so funny. I thought everyone around him also was doing a fantastic job. I was so impressed by how well these 4 people could act like tween boys. That's exactly how every conversation I've had with like a middle school boy, any of my little cousins, that's spot on. And I never thought I'd see them interact with Trump, but it worked for me. I thought it was really funny, and it was a pleasant surprise for the sketch.
I would agree. I thought that it was really cute, and then it went on like a little long. And I just think that the thing about this sketch is I like the performances. I like the writing. I think the timing was a little bit off here, because if they had just gotten, for me, Trump in a little bit earlier, I think I would have enjoyed it more. I think that it's needed some tightening. Rachel, how did you feel about it?
It took me a little bit to get into it, but I do know this is one of those sketches that I'm going to go back and watch over and over and really find even more gems. Like Halle, I have tween-age kids in my life, a 13-year-old niece, and I actually just texted her today to ask if people were still saying it's giving. And I learned that the old say that now. They don't say that's old, but we still say 6'7". 6'7" doesn't get old. So I loved hearing fire, low key, chat. Goated was new to me. So like, I think they got the language so down. And like a lot of the silly things, like the wooden ball in the middle of the avocado, I really appreciated a lot of the silliness of like really getting into the middle school mentality and the teenager mentality. I thought Jane especially impressed me. I thought she played it really well. I feel like she's really been blossoming this season and really getting into, I feel like, I don't want to say she was one note, but I think she's finding her range more so this season. I also, the accuracy of how big airheads are in that world was so spot on too. I was unaware that airheads weren't just the taffy anymore. And I learned when I spent a week with my niece that airheads are the candy. So I think they really, really hit the innuendos of middle school teenage life really well. And then, yeah, I did love seeing Trump pop up here. I feel like that was almost like the great little antidote to the cold open being different, but it did take too long to get there. I think that if they had just done maybe one segment, either the candy or the vegetables, and gone there, maybe it would have been a little bit stronger.
Yeah, especially for me, because I think you can only do so much of like, hey, that's cute. Like, I know that my niece or nephew does that, like, I think, like, I get what you're saying. It's just, it works in small doses. I don't think you can build out the full sketch that way. And I think that they knew that themselves. In a way, like I couldn't help but see Trump in it and think about, what if this was the cold open and it's
Right.
so different than a typical cold open style that you would get. it's similar in that something will happen and Trump will eventually come in and interrupt it. But just the tone felt very more like a sketch you would see in the show. And I do wonder how it would have played as the cold open, because I think it was fresh enough that it would have probably been better for me in that sense. Like I would have appreciated the how long they made us wait to bring in Trump for this. But I have to say, given that I enjoy Trump being meta, or James's Trump being meta about a Saturday Night Live, so I don't want to take away anything from that. But the fact that we've seen it so much lately made this feel refreshing to me, because it was nice to actually see James's Trump impression interact with people, even if it was just 12-year-olds. So I think that was a good angle to get at there. So yeah, I thought it was good. And I get also why they put this near the top of the show, because then you still get your politics in near the top there. Let's talk about our first pre-tape of the night. This is a Blumhouse Productions horror movie called Plans, where a couple, Ben, who's playing Chris, and Sabrina are hanging out. They're so excited to have a night to themselves as they sit on the couch and get ready to watch a movie. And then they realize that the thing that they agreed to do 4 months ago was today, as Sarah and Mikey are going to be coming over to have plans with them. Sarah is, I think it's Ben's or Sabrina's mom's cousin. She runs marathons. Mikey's married to her. He's the guy who always shows YouTube videos at parties. And they are there. They're going to stay with them. And it is so well designed of this horror movie of finding out that you have plans. We do get brief appearances from Tommy, who plays a waiter in this, Andrew Dismukes in a play. But this was fantastic to me, because I feel like everybody could somewhat relate to this. Rachel, how did you feel about it?
I think this was my highlight of the night. I just love when they take something so mundane and turn it into a ridiculous, over-the-top situation. The tone reminded me a little bit of the politics one from maybe, was it 4 years ago, when it was who can we vote for? Who's the right candidate? But bringing it to something that's so everyday. Was it in one of Mulaney's monologues that he once talked about how canceling plans is like the biggest, like how much, what a relief it is to cancel plans. So I feel like this is such a relatable mentality. And as a reluctant runner / person who won't admit that I have done 4 marathons, I love the poking fun at the marathoners, and also timing with the New York Marathon coming up here. They really nailed the kind of insider voice. I know there are behind the scenes people at SNL who do run the New York City Marathon, so I feel like they must have tapped that network. I also loved them calling out specifically the immersive play based on Snow White with the Sleep No More masks, because right now there is Masquerade here in New York with that's an immersive version of Phantom of the Opera. So I thought that was also very now for New Yorkers. And there's always a viral ramen. So I appreciated the little throws. I feel like it could have been a little sharper. I don't know what I wanted from it. I just wanted it to be a little bit tighter. It did but I almost also enjoyed the fact that it like lagged a little, because it was like, oh my God, it's just plans. Oh my God, it's just that they're staying over. So I almost wanted it a little crisper, but I also kind of felt like I appreciated the pause or the little awkwardness in between.
Halle, how did you feel about this one?
I loved this one. I really liked that it was like kind of Halloween-y and leaning into the spooky season that we're in without being like a blatant in-your-face Halloween sketch, since we're still a bit out from Halloween, but getting into the spooky spirit. I was so impressed with Ben in this sketch. I thought he really put a lot and leaned into the dramatic side of this sketch, and it worked really well. I bought into his performance. I was like, wow, I feel his emotions. I too get so scared when I have plans, especially when I didn't make them. But I loved this. I thought that the editing and like the pacing really kind of propelled it. The overall vibe, it felt really true to the kind of spooky horror movie theme. This was definitely up there. It wasn't my #1 episode highlight, but it is one of the ones that stuck with me. And I was like, this is the type of pre-tape that I love to see, especially around this time of year. And I thought it was just great all around from the cast in this one.
It did remind me like a little bit in tone, like the 2020 part 2, 2024 sketch that we got from Jack Harlow's episode a couple years back. Also, like, sort of benign premise that has this horror feel to it. But I agree. I thought Ben Marshall was fantastic in this. I thought Sabrina was also really good. Like, they just totally acted the hell out of this. And it was great to put Sarah, who felt more of this was like her natural fit of playing this middle-aged woman, but has this like dark side to her. And they were able to have some fun with the editing, where they were able to extend her neck. I really love this one. I think this is the one that's probably going to get passed around from this show the most easiest, because it is the thing that most people can relate to. And even for me, like, I'm the type of person who gets pretty extroverted and like loves making plans with people, and I enjoy seeing friends, but like, I'm starting to get to the age too where I'm like, oh my gosh, did I make plans this weekend? Damn it. So I think that this was really good. I enjoy this one. Okay, so now we get a little bit of a surprise. We get a Shop TV sketch. This is the 4th time that we're seeing a Shop TV sketch. We previously saw it with Gerard Carmichael, Adam Driver, and Michael Keaton. The first time we saw this, Mikey was paired with Cecily Strong, and then Cecily left the show. So we were like, oh, okay, well, it'll be interesting to see if Mikey does this again. And he does. And he does it with Heidi a couple times during the Driver and Keaton ones. And now this year, we see Ashley Padilla stepping in for Heidi Gardner, who's going to be Rhett's co-host. And we have James Austin Johnson appearing at the beginning of this as Tim Tucker, who has this like Jesus trick-or-treat thing going on. But the main person in the sketch is Sabrina, who is playing Virginia Duffy, who has an ergonomic travel neck pillow that looks a lot like a vagina. And it is just the craziest prop that they are showing here. Because right away, you could see like I won't do it justice, but it is like horizontally spread out. And then they like lift it up and we get more of a look at it. Am I doing a good job here? So then we have her explain the prop, and lots of euphemisms and all of that. We get some callers who call in, like Tommy and Andrew, and a really sicko caller from Keenan who wants to talk about what's going on here. But it was fun to get this back. I always find these sketches interesting and they give me a good laugh. Hallie, how did you feel about it?
I will always laugh and love a Shop TV sketch. They always get me. It's just my sense of humor. I guess I've got a little dirty mind and I think it's funny. I laugh at these like a 12-year-old boy. And I don't know why I didn't expect one of these. In the second the sketch started, I was like, oh, of course they have one of these when Sabrina Carpenter is hosting. Like, she's known for having such a kind of raunchy sense of humor and really leaning into stuff like this. And every single time I see one of these, I'm like, surely the next one, I won't be shocked by the visual and I'll be so desensitized to seeing Mikey Day put in such a situation. And every time I am not desensitized to such a thing. And their ability to really sell the uncomfortable aspect of it and not completely lose it really adds to that. Like, watching Mikey go through having that put around his head and just having to be birthed, the small baby sound effect, I lost it. And these sketches have always worked on me, and I think they will continue to work on me if we keep seeing more of these.
Yeah, it does work because it's so easy. Like, it's almost like they do this 4 times, and I think they can always keep it fresh because they can always come up with new props that are somewhat lewd. But I think that they found, like, last year they did the nipple cookies, and I thought that was so different from what they had done previously that I was like, oh, this is great. We should totally put this up on our Instagram page. So I did as soon as like that sketch aired. And then by the time I got on the Hot Take Show, Instagram had taken down the picture because they thought we were putting porn on our account. So we'll see how long this one lasts, Rachel. But what do you think of this sketch?
Oh my God, that's hilarious that happened. I mean, yeah, I agree. It's funny that this is also the 4th in the series, just like Domingo, but this somehow still felt fresh-ish. And having actually written stories on travel pillows and tested a lot of travel pillows, I'm never going to look at travel pillows the same again. But I thought, again, I think we've talked before about how Ashley can step into the Heidi roles, especially because of their similar backgrounds. And I think this just proved that she really can. And she almost elevated it a little bit more. I thought one of the best line deliveries during this was when she just kind of offhandedly said, "Not since my sophomore year of college," when they were talking about the little ball. But like she just delivered that so on the nose. Like she really just has that subtle way of hitting something right on the nose. I also weirdly love the constant Odell calls to Odell off camera. I don't, for some reason, like this imaginary character, I don't think we've ever actually seen this character. And the way that Mikey is just constantly going, Odell, Odell, I think it just kind of adds a fun element of an imaginary extra character that gives it a little more depth.
Yeah, Ashley clipped that one out of the park. So it was great. Let's keep going. Let's talk about the Girl Boss Female Confidence Seminar, where we have Chloe and Sarah sitting in the audience as they're excited to see Queen Leisha, played by Sabrina, who is there to be a girl boss and give female confidence. Ashley's also sitting in the audience, and we have Jeremy and Tommy as backup dancers, and she's there to perform. And at one point, they try and throw her out the window, but she hits a dumpster and she gets a concussion and a brain injury, and then she can't talk, and she has like CTE, and she's like coming out, and it's all jumbled mess. And eventually we will see Keenan repair the window. And for me, probably the moment of the sketch is they're supposed to throw a Jeremy body double dummy out the window, and it hits the wall and breaks the entire sketch, which like I'm sure they were all very thankful of. But this was a very interesting moment here. Rachel, how did you feel about the Girl Boss Female Confidence Seminar?
Oops, sorry about that. I will admit this wasn't my favorite of the night. I mean, I also, was there a technical outage with the mic going out at the
Yes.
kind of at the beginning? So it seemed like there was a lot of little things happening. I love that Chloe broke, and this was the first of 2 times she broke tonight, I think. And because I feel like she so rarely breaks that I always love seeing that she's still having fun with it and finding things, going off script. I don't know. I just never really found. I feel like a lot of things where there are normal tricks, like with the thing with the reveal at the end with the words. They've done that with other game shows. They've done that with word games where all of a sudden it's like that's this giant phrase that was actually meant to be that way. There wasn't really a surprising end. Probably the Sean Hayes part with the gated community was probably my favorite line. There were, I think, upon another viewing, I'm sure I'll appreciate more of those little lines that were tucked in like that. But right now, my reaction was that this was kind of meh for me.
Yeah, I didn't love this. I really think that moment of just the sketch breaking down because they missed throwing the Jeremy dummy out the window, like gave me something to go for here. I love the energy from Sabrina. I just thought like this didn't get off the ground. Halle, how did you feel about it?
I was really excited to talk about this one because I actually really liked this, and I could sense that it was probably the type of sketch that you either didn't care for it or you really liked it. And I always think like a cut to something crazy going on with a dummy that's like very obviously a dummy is always the type of dumb thing that's going to make me laugh really hard. Just the visual of cutting back to them wildly swinging it around. I thought a lot of the just like girl boss gibberish getting progressively more and more insane as it went on was so well done and honestly relatable. That's kind of how I feel listening to anyone talk as it gets like later in the night and my brain stops functioning. So I was like, that's probably CTE accurate right there. So I really liked this one. I thought it was the physicality of it was really funny. Any sort of mistake always makes something funnier to me, but I think even without it, I would have just gotten a kick out of them swinging that dummy around like crazy.
Yeah, I see that. I think like I'm having a little bit of trouble with Chloe and Sarah as a pair reacting to things that are happening around them. I sort of feel like, it is a girl boss confidence seminar, so you have to have women in the cast there to be there and there's not many choices. However, like from what we saw in the first episode and then here tonight, I think that there's something about like them in those roles that doesn't exactly fit for me. I don't think that they're the type of performers that are like the ones that are playing like the POV of the audience. Because I think when you're in that role, like they are us in the sketch. Like if we're going to get into the world of the sketch. And I don't know that they, as performers, are the most like inviting of the audience to bring us into that, and that like their reactions feel so like grounded in the way that I want them to. So I think that's where I struggle a little bit with some of the things that I've seen in the last few weeks. And if they're going to be the veterans of this cast, at least for the women of the show, and they're going to be in these roles, I need to figure out what it is, but I'm having a little bit of a trouble with it. But overall, I will say that I am a fan in general of seminar sketches. I find the concept of them really funny. My favorite one from SNL history is Nassim Pedrad as Heshi. If you ever remember that one, or anyone in our audience. But so there was something here. It just didn't come together in the way that I wanted it to. One that I really did enjoy, though, is this music video. So I said earlier in the day, Bowen announced that he was going to be absent, but he did film a pre-tape for the show. So we didn't get the full absence that we were expecting. This time he is in a sketch. It's a music video called Middle School Loving. And we have Bowen with Cam and Marcelo, who's getting ready to go to the school dance with Sabrina, who's with Chloe and Veronica. And they're 13, but tonight's the night as they reveal that they are ready to grind, as you would see at any high school dance. We have Jeremy and Jane there dancing as well. We got Ben, who's dancing with Veronica. We'll see Ashley as, I guess, like a teacher, parent, chaperone, and Keenan as Principal Atkins in this. But this was very fun to me. This was, Halle, like a very Pussycat Dolls, sort of, I got to be careful with that word, but Shop TV around. But that type of music that I was expecting from this, and I was watching it, I was like, oh yeah, I see like what they were going for here. And I just thought the concept was so funny. So many stories, but still, like I thought that this was a really, really good one. How do you feel about it?
I loved this. Like you said, I thought the music itself was just so well done and so catchy. I was having a good time dancing, and just like such a universally traumatizing concept. Why are middle schoolers always rubbing their butts on other middle schoolers at dances? What's happening there? This reminded me a little bit of one of my other favorite musical sketches ever, which is Crucible Cast Party with Lin-Manuel Miranda. I think just from a music perspective and an awkward middle schoolers doing weird things. But right off the bat, I kind of made that connection in my head and I was locked in. It's like, I'm going to like this. I thought everyone was phenomenal in it. Very interesting to me that we have a very middle school heavy night tonight between the podcast one and this. Everyone's just really reminiscing on the tweens we once were. But this was up there for me with the episode overall.
Yeah, and I also just like, I can't believe that they've never done anything like this before, because there's so many times where I'm like with some of my friends and we're just like, can you believe that like we thought we were the coolest people in the world because we grinded with girls at high school dances? Like that's where, so it's like I could totally relate to what was happening here. And even my wife and I, who really like only met each other when we were 20, but we were at the same high school dance at the same time at one point. We didn't grind, but still we have like that story of like, oh, we were there the same night. So like for me, like I find that these things are really funny. Rachel, how did you feel about this pre-tape?
I agree. Like the awkwardness of a middle school dance is just so universal. And the way I was like, how are they going to lean into this? And then they went all in on the grinding. I know I did think it was weird that this was the week to have double middle school content or segments. The one that I actually still think was a little bit not of a notch above these two was the one, was it last year or 2 years ago, where they did the middle school teachers. I thought that one really nailed that age group well. But that said, the catchiness of this like Halle said, I was right away like, oh my gosh, this is that song that's going to be stuck in my head. It was nice to see Jeremy singing and then like kind of seeing his range. I feel like we're really getting to know what the new cast members are able to do. They've been singing, they've been dancing, they've been really showcasing that they're mostly all triple threats. So that's, and Keenan always, Keenan is almost like that closer, that surprise. He needs to be in every sketch, right? And he always serves that role well. But also I like seeing Jane kind of end it with the, oh no, thank you. I thought I've been really impressed with Jane this season already.
Yeah, no, she was good in this. I mean, I also thought Veronica was really good in this one where she's like, it's stabbing me in the back, and Ben's like, I don't know, I'm scared, I don't know what that is. So that was great. And Ashley had a great line too, where she yells Caroline enough, and the way I can't do justice to the way that Ashley yelled that line, but I thought it was great. And you're totally right, Keenan came in and closed this. This to me was awesome as well, and that's part of the reason why I felt like tonight was a really strong pre-tape night that we ended up seeing here. We do get music from Sabrina Carpenter. She's going to perform Man-Child and Nobody's Son. Keenan will introduce the first track, and Chloe will introduce the second. How do we feel about Sabrina's music on the show tonight, Rachel?
I think that Sabrina nails what a musical performance should be. She takes advantage of the being at SNL to not just perform, but to create a concept and really dive into that concept. You have these set designers, you have this stage, you have this opportunity. Don't just use the stage, like dive into it, have a real story behind it. And she did that so well with both. I thought the detail of the books and the book covers was so fun. Singing into Hairbrush and just like the fun flirtiness of it was just such, like Man-Child was just such a fun performance of a song that we all know. And then there was like, was the second one going to be her other single? Why am I not thinking of it right now? Like, so I like that she did Nobody's Son instead of Tears was the one I was kind of expecting, but I like that she introduced Nobody's Son and then had the karate scene with, or is it Taekwondo or karate? I don't really know the difference. My niece would get mad at me. But with the tatami doors, like at first when you saw the doors, I was like, where is this concept going? When you saw her costume, I was like, okay, I think I know where it's going. And then you see the whole scene with everyone else. I just think that she understands the opportunity of what it means to be a performer. I mean, she did this even when she was just the musical guest. She really used the stage well and conceptually.
Halle, did you enjoy Sabrina's performances tonight?
I did. I loved it. I thought it was so fun just to see like two different kind of setups for these songs. I think she does a really good job of, as a stage performer at concerts and festivals and stuff, she knows how to play to like a big in-person audience like that. And then she also knows how to do a like kind of smaller, more detailed, intimate performance on something like SNL, where you can kind of tell more of a story and it's a little less big and flashy, but still fun and flirty, like you said. I really loved her first performance. I thought the detail of the microphone, the little hairbrush microphone, the bedazzled SNL underwear, awesome. She should sell those for $1 billion. She'd make $1 billion. But it just felt so fun and fresh. And I think it's easy sometimes for some people to think of the musical guest almost as like a time to get up and get a snack or something, or to kind of think about what you had just seen sketch-wise, and this didn't feel like that at all for me. I was locked into this performance. It really carried the momentum for me going into Weekend Update and then going into the last few sketches for her second performance.
Yeah, also, I think she swore a couple times in that second one, and I'm not precious about it, but I just thought it was interesting that was just out there. I guess we started late enough, so it was fine.
Big night for the FCC.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess something to watch. But that was this was fun. I thought she sounded fantastic. It was really cool, and the set design was great. On Weekend Update, we get two correspondents. First, we'll have Marcelo appear as the movie guy. So let's just talk about this quickly, because we last saw him in the Walton Goggins episode. He hasn't seen any scary movies. He doesn't like scary movies. Halle, anything you want to say on Marcelo's movie guy?
The movie guy is not my favorite recurring character, but I'll take it on account of it makes sense for Halloween. It was fun. interesting that we got 2 big Marcello recurring characters in this episode, but I liked the way they made it thematically fit the season and Halloween time. So I didn't not like it. It was a little bit surprising to me to be a Weekend Update pick, especially when we already got Domingo. But I guess Sabrina Carpenter fans love Marcelo Hernandez. It made sense to have him on Update to me.
Yeah, that does make sense. Rachel, anything you want to say about it?
I, by chance, had old episodes playing, and Movie Guy came on earlier today, and I appreciated it more when I was watching it again this afternoon. And then I was like, I don't really know if I needed more of it. I will say the one that got me was the alien and no, Colin, I'm an American citizen. I thought that was brilliant. And just for that line, I appreciated it.
Fair enough. Well, let's talk about Tommy Brennan, who had his big moment. We talked about this a lot in the preseason, that the expectation was like Tommy season starts when he gets on Update, because we know what's going to happen at some point. Then can he translate to sketches? I actually have been pretty surprised that they've been using him a lot before we even got to this moment. So I'll rescind that comment. But here we go. Tommy Brennan gets his debut talking about just moving to New York City. Talks about being from a big Minnesotan family and from being from the Midwest, and just meeting Tim the Milkman, who might be his dad, mentioning how he looks like somebody from the 1930s, and then he jumped his first turnstile. He grew up Catholic, and he has one major sin, Tommy time. So this is some stand-up that I assumed he brought with him to the show a lot. This is something that we've seen from most stand-up performers who've been hired, that they get the opportunity to go to the Weekend Update desk and perform. But big moment here for Tommy. The question is, did he nail it? Rachel, what do you think?
So we know how big of a Longfellow fan I was, and how I felt like he did such a great job of that first Weekend Update, translating his stand-up into a Weekend Update segment. And I just thought that was so crisp. Every line was delivered perfectly. Tommy is the only one that I've really been doing my homework on, and I've been listening to his stand-up. So a lot of these jokes were very familiar. The 8 kids. I mean, you could tell where the SNL writers helped him. I don't think the cafeteria, I don't think I heard him do several renditions of the 8 kids, and being the wrong choice, but I don't think I ever heard the cafeteria style milk machine part or the milkman part. The jumping the turnstile, I definitely heard him do several times. So it was kind of you could tell what he did and what the staff writers probably helped him make work for Update a little bit more. I always love his self-deprecating jokes. Like, just in his stand-up, he's always like making fun of his jacket, his look. But the locket photo of a World War I hero was so, I don't think I'd heard that yet. And the good at football pre-integration was just like, I kind of lost it there and kind of missed the next line because I was laughing so hard. So I think that Tommy's the one that I've been most excited to watch and have been paying attention to outside of this. I actually had tickets to go see him on Thursday. I was bummed it was canceled, but of course it was canceled because of he's on SNL. So I thought he did a pretty good job. I'm not sure it was as impressed. Like, I used to watch Devin, Michael, and Marcelo's first ones on repeat, all the time. I'm not sure this was that sharp and that quick that I will do that, but I'm definitely going to listen to it a few more times.
Halle, how do you feel about it?
I am in the same boat as Rachel. I have been looking forward to this. I sensed it was coming soon. I actually saw Tommy do stand-up maybe like a month ago. And so I had heard some of this. I knew that he had it in his pocket, and I was excited to see how it would translate to Update. And I thought he was able to tie in quite a few components pretty well with this theme of moving to New York and all of that. I was so happy to see him at the desk. I think it is a learned art of being on Weekend Update and knowing what to do when a joke doesn't quite land with the audience in the studio the way that you want it to, playing into that. How are you going to flow from that into something else? But I thought for a first time at the desk, this was a good performance from Tommy, and I was really happy to see him. And like you said, John, I've been very pleasantly surprised with how much they've been utilizing him in sketches and how well he's been doing in sketches. So for him to be able to do that and then also come and bring kind of his stand-up side to the desk, I enjoyed it. It was really fun for me. I have just been looking forward to this. As he referenced, he does look. He's got a look to him. He's he's nice. We like him.
Okay,
The young
good.
ladies like him.
Good. I'm glad. I mean, and look, there's a lot of pressure on Tommy, which is totally unfair to him, but he's coming in as the stand-up replacement to like Longfellow and Devin, who were let go, or decided not to come back in some mutual way, for depending on the situation, where they didn't necessarily translate from stand up to being like the greatest sketch performers. And I think that that is interesting, because then you hire a stand up who is like coming in, and the expectation is that they're going to be able to do that. And I think that he's done a pretty serviceable job in sketches. I have no judgment over his stand-up routine that he did on Update tonight. I thought it was good. I think he was probably a little bit nervous, but I think the material was great. And, he's practiced this on the Tonight Show. He's performed it around the city. There's nothing I can say about it, because it's what he brought to the show from before being there. Everything else that he does on Update moving forward and in sketches, like that to me is where I can evaluate if this was a great choice to bring Tommy Brennan onto the show. But I'm really happy for him, and I'm happy that he had his moment, because I think that had he not been on there tonight, we all would have been saying like, okay, but you brought this guy on, when are you going to have him on Update? So we'll see what happens. Cut from the Update desk tonight was James Austin Johnson, actually, who was playing an inspirational coach. He comes out there. It's like a new character for James that we haven't seen before, so maybe we'll see it coming up. But essentially, he's guiding, giving tips to remain in great shape, but they're all kind of crazy tips, like waking up early and making a beeline for sunlight and all this. And he ends up like going at Che at some point, saying how his life's going nowhere, and he smokes himself to death. And him and Che go back and forth. And the actually Weekend Update segment ended in dress with James Austin Johnson running back and forth in front of the Update desk. So that is something that we may see in the future from JAJ. All right, let's talk about the sketches we saw after Update, where first we get, we'll go from one rookie to another rookie having a big moment, where we get the appliance jingle sketch. Keenan is trying to sell appliances to the couple of Andrew and Ashley. And let me just say, so happy to continue seeing them for the third episode in a row as a couple. Or like paired together in a sketch, because I think that is exactly what I've been looking for. Sabrina and Veronica are playing the washer dryer set that they are interested in buying, as they're going to sing these like old timey jingles to them. And really cool moment here for Veronica, where she gets her first starring sketch role. So Halle, how do you feel like Veronica did in this appliance jingles sketch?
I thought Veronica was awesome in this. It felt like she was not holding back at all. She really committed to it. It was a really kind of, I'm not entirely different vibe from her than what we've seen, but it was just such a big step, I feel like, to then all of a sudden be singing these jingles with Sabrina Carpenter. Also, you're in a washing machine. That was crazy. But I thought she really helped drive this sketch and keep it going, and kept up with Sabrina in all of the washer jingle madness. This was like one of the first, I've been enjoying seeing Veronica in sketches and seeing what she could do. And I think this was one of the first times I was like, whoa, okay, I can see what direction that she could be going on this show, and what I'd like to see more of from her in the future. So this was a big Veronica moment for me. I was not too familiar with her before she joined the cast, which is crazy as someone as chronically online as I am. But this was like a big, this is Veronica, this is who she is, this is what you could expect to see more of, hopefully.
Yeah, I thought this was really fun. And honestly, I saw something in Veronica that I hadn't seen before, which is that there was this endearing warmth to her when she was singing. Maybe she just felt so comfortable and it was part of the character of the washer dryer, but she was smiling so big and having so much fun that she kind of reminded me a little bit of Vanessa Bayer in this sketch, where she gave me those vibes of like just like you just want to give her a hug almost. But I think that the singing was so awesome. She got to show off her skill, and I'm so glad that she got to do it next to Sabrina Carpenter. It was a really cool night for her, Rachel.
Yeah, I think what's so exciting about having Veronica is that ever since Trost left, we haven't really had as many musical moments and musical sketches, and I've missed that even just the last 5 years. Just I feel like there was so much more singing talent with when Cecily was a bigger part of the cast and whatnot. So I'm excited that there's more of that. I mean, there's been a lot of musical moments, just not just this episode, but even just the 3 episodes this season already. As somebody who has a LG washer that I bought at PC Richards & Son specifically, I very much related to this concept. And then I don't want to jinx it, but it hasn't been working lately. So every now and then I need to go down to my laundry room, and I've been noticing the jingle at the end. So I can't believe that little thing that is just kind of something you hear. I love that somebody in the writer's room took that little element and turned it into something so ridiculous like this. Veronica is so fascinating because I feel like she's completely not my demographic, and I'm still learning to understand how she fits in. And I think, like you said, there was that vulnerable moment where I was like, oh, maybe she's not as, I don't know. I just, in the sketches, the online clips I've seen, there's a little bit of a harsher, not harsh, but a little bit of a, I don't want to say attitude, but there's that you don't see that soft side of her. It's funny because Jane Wickline is also completely not my demographic, but I so immediately was just drawn to her. So it's fascinating. I'm just intrigued by my own reaction to the two of them, and both being viral kind of stars before they came here. But I am intrigued to see where she goes, but I'm still a little bit more intrigued by Jane.
I'm definitely more intrigued by Veronica just because it's so early on in Veronica's career. But I think that for me, I agree with you, Rachel, that Veronica, for everything she has online, she has this like complete confidence in herself, and she has this personality that you even saw it if you watched what she did. She had something a couple weeks ago that the SNL put out online, and I remember like seeing sort of like her personality that you would see in her TikToks there, where she sort of has this like, it's almost like a little bit overbearing, but I don't mean that in like a harsh way. It's just like her personality is like really out there. And I felt like this was like stripped back. And I do wonder if the malfunction of the prop helped the sketch in a way, because I think it sort of like stripped the veneer of her being like in there and focused on just like, she just like knew she had to sing and perform. And there was like this innocence to her in the performance. I don't want to overthink it, but I do think that there's like something to that. And I'm curious, like, if they will put up the live version of this sketch, because there is that moment for about like 10 seconds where her and Sabrina are standing up, and then just like one of the walls of the dryer is sort of off in that way. But she's just like smiling through it and singing. And I thought it was a really good moment for Veronica. This is the thing I think I'm the most excited about to rewatch, because I feel like it is fascinating to me that so far in this season, they have given all of the new performers opportunities here. And I'm like thrilled about it, because it's been years where we're like, oh, well, what about this person? What about this person? I don't think you can say that this season. So I'm happy that Veronica finally did have her moment here tonight. Let's keep going, and we'll talk about somebody who keeps having huge moments at the show. And Ashley Padilla is going to have another starring sketch. She had a huge one in the first week, and then last week was all over the episode. And tonight, very similarly, all over the episode, 6 sketches. This one was the one that was probably the most prominent, as Ben and Sarah and Dismukes are all at the office with Sabrina, and they're excited to surprise Ashley, who's playing Laura. And then they yell surprise because it's her birthday, and she farts. And it is a moment that we've seen in a lot of sketches over the years, like farting, that type of humor, that type of sketch. Eventually we'll get Chloe as Jen. Jeremy will come in as the boss. But there is something like a little bit different about this one, if I could just like not show my Ashley love too much. But I'll say that I think that she plays this really well, where there's a lot of dead air and silence in this one. In terms of the way that she reacts to it. I've never seen anyone on Saturday Night Live react to a fart the way that Ashley did in this sketch. And I think that she won me over on a very tough premise to win me over on. So this was a fascinating sketch to talk about. Halle, how do you feel about it?
I loved this one. I saw someone in the chat mention that it felt kind of Tim Robinson-esque to them, and that was immediately what I thought too. It was kind of a different vibe than the direction I thought it was going to go. I don't know that I have recently ever seen a small chunk of a performance acting wise that has sold me as much as Ashley's response to that first fart. That was incredible. That was a masterclass in comedic acting, I think. It was, I was laughing out loud at the way that she carried that. I think they also, not to get too fart technical, I think they deferred from the usual kind of comedic fart sound effect. There was something different about this one. It was a unique fart sound. It felt a step above usual fart humor that I feel like we see. And I think it was because of Ashley and the way that she carried it in a much different way than one usually would. But I agree with you. This was a big moment for Ashley for me. And this, I think, was maybe my episode highlight. If I could pick one moment of the episode to be my highlight, it would be that first fart. And other sentences I never thought I would say on this podcast, but shout out to that first fart.
Yeah, shout out. I would say there's something, this may be a little bit of a polarizing comment, but this is something that I truly do feel is that sometimes they would give Kristen Wiig like uncomfortable material like this, and only she could pull it off in a way that I thought was funny. And I think that this is one of those things, Rachel, where like some people find farts very funny, some people don't, but I think you can't help but laugh at the just insanely uncomfortable reaction that she gave to this. That's one of those, like, this is the moment of the entire episode, Rachel, that I wish I was in the audience for. I wish I could have the live reaction to what Ashley was doing in this sketch. How do you feel about it?
The fact that she can have that much range of expression within one moment with 0 lines is just such a testament to her skill set that obviously she's perfected so well over the years with not seconds up, is it upright? No, it's not Upright Citizens Brigade.
Groundlings.
Groundlings, right. So yeah, I feel like we saw, I mean, she did that also last week with the or 2 weeks ago with the Bad Bunny principal's sketch, where there were just, it was the non-lines and the reactions that she really made you laugh without words. And like you said, like Kristen Wiig could do that too, but it's not like she's doing it like Kristen. She's doing it like Ashley. She's got her own brand of being like, she's just taking things and making it her own, and just really, I mean, I'm just so proud of her. Yes, I'm definitely part of the Ashley fan club as well. But like, to the point where the veterans are also just, you can tell that they're so impressed, and she's just fitting in and like really stepping up as a sophomore on the show. I feel like like last year, it was like the perfect, she was feeling the waters, getting a sense of everything. And she really has just, I mean, as we know from the numbers last week, she's just really showing what she's capable of, and that she's capable of being the breakout female star of this show.
Yeah, I don't know that I've seen such like a meteoric ascendance like this in a very long time. Like, this is somebody who, again, was in her first season showing us what she could do in like one line in a sketch. But now she is taking over this show, and it is so fascinating to watch. It's almost like Bill Hader-esque, I'll say, in a way, where it was like he was somebody who always impressed us but never like took over the show, and then eventually like figured that out. But that was even like later into his career. It is just really like a unique situation that I think we're seeing with Ashley, who has completely carved out a place for herself in SNL history as she is starting to become one of the new great stars of Saturday Night Live. And I love that we can all get behind this person who is a naturally born sketch performer who is able to do what she does best in these sketches. And just going back to this sketch in particular, again, the easy thing to do is to talk about her reactions to the fart. But it's not just that. It's the fact that like she takes, and I want everybody to go back and watch this. Look at Ashley's eyes throughout the entire time of the sketch. She is squinting so hard as she's like contorting her face just to make people feel so uncomfortable around her, as she's like, I can't believe you guys would do this to me. She makes everyone in the sketch feel so bad about themselves that as the audience, you feel how uncomfortable it is. And that is so hard to do in like 3 minutes. So I'm just utterly impressed with her, the way that she continues to go about it, even with the stupidest material. Again, it is just a fart sketch, but she crushed this in every way. And I was really happy because, again, I wasn't sort of feeling some of the live material that we're getting at the start of the show. I do think that the second half with a really fascinating Veronica sketch, another good Ashley piece, I think this was a really strong way to head towards the end of this episode. And now we get a pre-tape that we've been talking about for 2 weeks already. And in the third week, it does finally arrive. So this is the Martin Herlihy social experiment pre-tape that we talked about, where he filled a theater with professional actors who are all playing Frankensteins. And he's experimenting as he sees people like Jane, Veronica, and Cam all come in and sit next to the Frankensteins. This is a very interesting thing that finally did make it to air. I was expecting it would probably get to it here in week number 3, but with the ascendance of Ben Marshall to the cast, Martin staying in the writer's room, and John Higgins leaving the show, the big question would be, will we ever get Martin Herlihy on screen? And with this and him appearing in a promo last week, or maybe it was earlier this week, I think that like clearly they're going to make an effort to still get Martin on screen, given how familiar the audience is with him. So I would love to know from you both how you feel about this pre-tape. Halle, how did you enjoy the social experiment sketch?
I enjoyed this one a lot. I was happy to see Martin back on my screen. That was, I feel like, a big question with the PDD shakeup over the summer was, does this mean that we're not going to see Martin on camera anymore? Now that we're not going to have these PDD pre-tapes, is he going to exist on the show in some other fashion? So I was really happy to see this. And I thought it was just it felt original, and something about it felt a lot different than what we usually see. I'm also irrationally scared of getting caught on a hidden camera or like social experiment type show. So this just really resonated with me. But I thought some of the like quick lines were so funny. Like the one about Jane being like, I thought for sure she'd be woke because of the haircut or something like that. I thought Cam was phenomenal in this one. I found myself chuckling throughout this one, and it felt like a good way to wrap up the night. It felt unique enough to be to come at the very end of the night, but it kept the momentum going and felt like a good note to wrap things up on for me. And I was just so happy to see Martin. It brought me joy. My PDD fan heart was happy.
I was happy to see him too, because honestly, like I feel that nothing against Ben Marshall, who I think is doing really well, but I just thought that Martin had the most unique personality of the group. So I always felt like if he was going to be in the cast, that would make the most sense to me. But this is a cool spot, and I'd be happy to see something from him every now and then. I kept up this comment from Oversimplified Productions, who said, now this was fascinating. It felt like something that existed in early seasons. And I would agree. I feel like this was sort of like Albert Brooks-esque, if you're going to go back 50 years ago, or even like Tom Schiller-ish, sometimes with like hidden camera stuff, where you can play around with the audience. And I don't know that the next Martin Herlihy pre-tape that we're going to get is going to be him talking directly to the audience about some sort of social experiment that he is planning. But I felt like he has the gravitas to be able to pull this off, Rachel, because we know him so well. So I feel like this was a really strong pre-tape from him to end the night.
I'm also still mourning it's not really the death of PDD. It's more the separation. They still do their own thing. But I think I was most impressed with Martin seeing him in Happy Gilmore. Like, I was like, oh, he is capable on his own. I feel like being part of the threesome and just his personality among the three, it was so easy to compare them that you often didn't really just focus on what he could do. And now that he's getting his own lane, he's almost the most unexpected star of PDD. I mean, my favorite sketch probably of their run was the Shrek one, which was his idea, and of course he even references it with the Frankensteins and the Shrek. He clearly has a thing for green-faced creatures. But the fact that he also then used this concept, I mean, obviously he grew up in a household that was very much in the scene. He has the historical knowledge of like all how sketch comedy, like he was grew up around it. So this did feel of a yesteryear vibe, but yet relevant for now. And then they must. I don't know that exactly how the earlier renditions were. They must have added the Diwali tag at the end just for this week, or I don't know how much adjustment there was to make it relevant for this week. But obviously Diwali's on Monday, so it kind of made sense this week.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. That's interesting. I didn't think about that one. I also thought Cam was so funny in this. He reminded me so much of Tracy Morgan. Like that's the type of thing that they would do where like Tracy would be like just sitting around as like oblivious to everything that's happening around him. And you know, for me, I was like, I love to see Cam in more roles because I do think that if there is, you know, I talked earlier about how they've really in this first run given everyone a shot. I do think Cam has been the one that's probably been the least used in diverse roles throughout the first 3 episodes. We saw him on Update in the premiere, and then he sort of played background bits for the last couple episodes, but we haven't seen his personality too much in sketches. And I do think that this was, even though this was filmed a couple weeks ago, this was still like a really good moment here for Cam at the end of the Social Experiment pre-tape. So really, really enjoyed this one that we got here from Martin Hurley, and happy that it finally made it to the show. All right, let's talk about how we're going to rate this out of 10. So chat, I will ask you for your ratings on the night. And Rachel and Halle, while you think of how you would like to put this whole episode together, I'll talk about some of the cut sketches that we saw from the night. So there was a couple of others that we didn't talk about yet. There was a sketch called The Perfect Man, and that was a sketch where Sabrina is on a date with new cast member Jeremy, who's saying corny things and putting chopsticks in his mouth. And then she looks at the camera and says, do you ever wish you had a better date? Now you can. And she walks over to a Barbie life-size box and unveils Ben Marshall as the perfect tall man. And she talks about the perfect tall man, and eventually we'll see other people in this, including Andrew and Tommy and Marcelo, talking about the perfect tall man sketch. So we'll see if that one ever does pop up again. So that is one of the sketches. The other one was a Salem witch trial sketch where Sabrina plays a woman named Goody who's on trial for witchcraft because the men in the village keep having her in their dreams. And their beds end up wet when they wake up. And at one point, Sabrina asks why she's on trial, and Sarah, who's playing an unattractive woman, grabs a broom and allows her to fly around set. So there's some of that that's happening there. Eventually, the town's oldest citizen is a 26-year-old man played by Marcelo, who's called out to explain how witch trials go. So essentially, it is a Salem witch trial sketch for all of the men and their thoughts about Sabrina Carpenter. So that one was cut as well from the show. Okay, Rachel, I'll start with you. How are you going to rate this out of 10?
Before we had this discussion, I had rated this on my own as a 5 because I thought it was a very meh episode. Talking it with you, I've upped it to a 7, so I'm going to go with a 6, the average.
Okay. All right. Any reason why beyond just the numbers?
I feel like the last 2 episodes of this year of the season have started off so strong, so crisp, that if given the choice of the 3, I would rank it my 3rd favorite sketch-wise. I thought last week was such a great showcase of the new cast members. Yes, this week was as well, but I felt like last week was a broader showcase of all of them. And the first one I thought the first episode was just almost every sketch was a home run. So I think just comparatively, this wasn't just within this group of 3. It was probably sketch-wise my least favorite, as much as I love Sabrina.
Halle, how are you going to rate this one?
I have the opposite thought process. I was originally going to rank it a little bit lower than I was. I'm going to come in at a 7. But then when I thought about it with the scale of the previous 2 episodes of this season, I think it's my favorite of the 3 so far. So I bumped it up to a 7. I think it helps that I would make the argument that I'm probably the target audience for tonight's episode with Sabrina Carpenter and a lot of Marcelo features there. But I thought it was really strong from a music perspective. I thought the sketches, there were some standouts that really bumped the episode up above the others. I think some of the others maybe were more consistent for me, but this episode had a couple really high points that bumped it up. So this comes in as my favorite of the season so far, and I'm going to give it a 7.
Yeah, I probably in the middle. I would say that like I would go Amy Poehler, Sabrina Carpenter, Bad Bunny right now. The way that I'm feeling about these 3 episodes, certainly got to rewatch this one and talk it through. But not as high on this as I was last week. However, I do think that the pre-tapes were extremely strong tonight, and the fact that this show will always be remembered for me as being as having big moments for Tommy Brennan, Veronica Slawkowska, Ashley. Like, I think that those are things that help me with this episode a lot. So I'll probably go like 6.5. I do think that there was some live sketches that really needed to like tighten up and get some further work on them. But overall, based on what I saw last week, which I really love that episode, and a lot of the good things that I saw this week, especially Halle, how you started the show talking about how well they're using the feature players, I'm really excited for what we're going to get moving forward when the show does return in a couple of weeks with Miles Teller, who will be hosting for the second time. So, of course, we will be back right after that episode to talk about everything that we saw that night from Miles Teller and Brandi Carlile. Before we get there, though, we have more Sabrina Carpenter breakdowns to do, because on Monday I'll be back for the roundtable with another great panel to talk through everything we saw from this episode and how the episode will be remembered and some other big moments from the night. So that'll be a great time on Monday night. Mike will be back for the third week of By the Numbers on Wednesday, where he will have a great panel with him to talk through all the analytics and screen time. We'll also have episode 3 of our season 31 look back available on Wednesday. And then a week from Monday, we'll have our first feedback show of the season. So if you're new with us this season, you're welcome to call in and podcast with us if you join us on patreon.com/the SNL Network. We have a forum up now where we invite our patrons to come and join us on the show, answer some questions, and talk about the season of Saturday Night Live. We do this between every set of shows throughout the season. So it's one of my favorite things that we get to do, where I get to talk to some other people, all of our friends, and catch up with them and their thoughts on the season. So that will be taking place a week from Monday. It's always a great time. So come on and hang out with us then, and hopefully we'll have some other fun things for you along the way. So really appreciate everybody staying up late with us, especially our panelists here. So Rachel, thank you for joining us here tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. If you want even more Sabrina Carpenter, I actually had a story with her come out this week for Travel and Leisure, where she talks about her family road trips. And of course, I asked her favorite place in the world to get espresso. And it was for an Airbnb original that she's hosting that you can still enter through Monday morning. So if you want to look at that up. And also in the middle of my travels, I had the chance to do a Zoom interview with somebody very tied to the SNL world that I'm so excited about. And if you know about my history with SNL, it's a really big deal to me. So that should be coming out in about 2 weeks. So look for that as well.
That's so exciting, Rachel. I'm really looking forward to reading that one and what you have coming up as well. Halle, thank you so much for joining us here tonight.
Thank you for having me. I feel honored to have been here for the Sabrina Carpenter episode, and always a pleasure. The only thing that will get me to willingly stay up past my bedtime is being on this podcast, and it's always a great joy to talk with you guys.
Oh, that's so nice. Well, thank you. I really appreciate you both. And I want to thank everybody else in the chat for hanging out with us on this night. So to never miss anything we have going on here at the SNN, we invite you to subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Please do it because it helps people find our show. You can also follow us on social media at the SNL Network to see all of the great things we have up now about Sabrina Carpenter and everything that we will be talking about when Miles Teller does return to the show in the next couple of weeks. I want to thank Late Nighter for being the presenting partner for our show here today. And on behalf of everyone here at the Saturday Night Network, my name is Jon Schneider, and we will see you next time. Have a good one.